NERDSoul.
Late Ill Kid at OneYoungsta holding it down, bringing the StreetGeek and NERDSoul. What is up, my people? Today, another wonderful episode of On Screen. We talking about Star Wars. Anyway, we are not by ourselves. We are joined by an enigmatic person. This man has brought you sliced bread and so much more. I give to you, Jay Sherer.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't even realize I had brought that much things into reality here. Yeah, I'm stranded on Peridia. I'm still have thoughts about this finale. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, man. It's gonna be interesting.
So, speaking of the finale of Ahsoka, that's what we're talking about. Full spoilers. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to throw it to you. Did you like it?
Okay, so this is this is I'm so conflicted. The series as a whole, all 8 episodes, I think the series is pretty good. It's definitely not better than Mandalorian. Some people are saying it's better than Mandalorian. It's definitely not better than Mandalorian. It's nowhere even near Andor. But the series had some moments. The series had some phenomenal moments.
Yeah, people are just saying it's better than Mandalorian because of recency bias.
Correct. And here's the thing. I was very disappointed in the finale. Was the finale bad? No.
Oh, here we go. All right,
but I was very disappointed. So that's
all of
that's
my
kind of my
Star
take.
Wars fans that are in love with Dave Filoni and he can do no wrong, and you can't ever critique Star Wars. Y'all just going to hit the thumbs down button now and going and see yourself out, because he already said that he doesn't like the finale. So
I don't like the finale. You know what? It's not that this finale is bad. It's not bad. It's just okay, and it's so disappointing comparative to 4, 5, and 6. Those 3 episodes they should have been. Remember, you and I were talking about this. It was a streak, and they hit the streak at the wrong time. They're in the playoffs. They're going towards the championship, and they went cold. They went ice cold. They started bricking threes. They were nowhere near where they needed to be. And ultimately, that's just like a bummer, man. Like it bummed me out. What about you? What did you think?
I'm first. You know what? I'm going to read a tweet from Jay earlier today. Jay said, "Let me make sure I make sure I quote him properly." He said that this episode, my one-word review of Ahsoka's finale, weird.
Yeah.
Now, before I give my thoughts, why would you say weird? Why is it weird?
It was weird because, so you and I, we've been talking about this show every single week, and we were like, this show is on a streak. Everything's headed in the right direction. Baylan is super interesting. Shin is super interesting. We're pretty sure where we know this is going to end up. By the way, it ended up kind of where we thought it was going to end up. It didn't end up that different, except for we didn't get any big Baylan reviews. Like, yeah, okay, we see that he's, we'll probably get into this, but he's standing on the Mortis Mountains, for lack of a better word, and he's doing something. But like, there's no weight to that because we don't know what he's doing. Like, that's still mystery box territory, right?
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, he's going to do something with the Mortis stuff. Okay, Shin is now with some like random raider guys, like like she's in charge of like a half dozen guys, or not half dozen, but maybe like 2 dozen guys. Okay, like Ezra ends up there's some things like, okay, so let me just say this. I think Rick did a phenomenal job of directing this episode. I have no problems. He hit every moment the way he needed to hit every moment. But the writing was not there. Like, there's just several moments.
What the episode was about was the problem.
Exactly right. What the episode was about was the problem. And it's like, why is this episode 8, man? Like, this doesn't feel like it should be episode 8. And this didn't. We talked a lot about, like, so I started to feel bad in episode 7. I was like, I don't know, man. Like, the streak is over. Now, can we start a new streak? And I heard a bunch of my friends, they were like, look, This is just building to episode 8. Episode 8's going to be a banger. Like, it's going to be awesome. I'm like, no, it wasn't. It was just okay. Like, and that just bummed me out because the directing was there. Rick Fujiyama like brought it. Like it was legit. How do you pronounce his name, by the way? I always pronounce
it's Rick Famuyiwa.
Famuyiwa. That's way better.
I just looked at his name like right now.
Yeah, good.
So phonetically, that's how it sounds. So
okay, perfect.
I haven't heard him say it, but Famuyiwa.
I always say it as if it's a Japanese name, and then as soon as I say it, I'm like, I know that's wrong. Why am I saying that? So he did phenomenal. I thought that all of the moments he made compelling based on what was there in the script. You could tell. Yeah. The problem was what was there in the script was not that great, and so that was what bummed me out.
Oh man. Okay.
And that's why it's weird. It's weird. It's like oh, that was such a weird place to end everything. You had this like amazing thing going. You kind of faltered a little bit, and then you fell, over. Like, what a bummer. Anyway,
all right. So this episode was not good. I did not like it. Now it's once again, if we're talking about an episode that gives you a whole bunch of Star Wars things. And explanations and stuff, cool.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about the culmination of a season,
yeah,
this episode sucked.
Exactly.
It did. And don't nobody want to say it because Filoni's supposed to be, our Lord and Savior.
I know.
This episode sucked.
Oh, it's so true.
And it wasn't Rick's fault.
No, it was not.
This episode sucked because of what was in it.
Yep. That's exactly right.
This is why, because I'm going to drive this home. This is why Filoni does not run Lucasfilm. Because I remember when people were like, just give it, what's her name? Kathleen needs to get out of the way and just give it to Dave. And like, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Can't do it.
He don't know what he's doing. Also, when it comes to being a studio head, there's a whole bunch of business stuff that we have no idea if he can handle or not.
That's exactly right.
He's a creative. Do we know if he knows how to hire people and get staff? And I'm not talking about hiring directors, also hiring what studio is going to what crew is going to work on the set. What all these little minor details go through her desk. But anyway, don't get me started on that. Back to this. This finale, it did nothing for the story. This was just another episode.
Yep.
And I think it's this hubris in the belief that we're going to have more. We'll be able to do more. And I just finished covering how the gaming industry is having problems right now with, funding and people, they having layoffs and stuff and studios closing. All of this stuff is connected. Look, with the economy how it is, y'all ain't guaranteed another season.
Yeah.
And the way y'all left it off was in such a I don't care way. Y'all have wasted all of the goodwill in the mystery around Baylan. I don't care anymore. I don't care what he finds, who he finds. I mean, I'm sure he'll find something cool, great, but I don't care anymore.
Yep.
Like when he finds them, all right, sure.
Exactly.
Like, I truly do not care anymore. Then also the thing that kills me, and I'll start this with my first point, and this is like at the end of the episode, but my first point I want to talk about this episode is when Ahsoka comes to Sabine and she's like, Thrawn got away. And then Ahsoka's like, but Ezra got home. All right. Okay. Look, I love Ezra just as much as the next man. All right. Hey, Ezra's great. High five. Cool. But we're talking about one Jedi coming home as opposed to someone that you have feared returning to this galaxy. So much so that you set off a whole crusade that started in Mandalorian season 2.
Yeah.
Now it's because Ezra got home.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I expect her to take her belt off and spank Sabine Oh Lord, I've probably already made something that somebody's gonna try to. Anyway. Oh Lord, but what I'm saying is, there's no way that I'm gonna be like, well, hey, Ezra got home, so it's all right.
Yeah.
This. Oh my God.
Can I double down on this for a minute?
Go ahead.
Ezra steals. We don't know what happens to him when he's on Thrawn's ship. Like, that's a whole storyline that's probably a one shot somewhere, like a one shot comic.
Yeah, it'll be a comic book that they put out somewhere.
Yeah, but dude for sure gets into a stormtrooper suit at some point in time, then gets into a shuttle, and then at no point decides I probably shouldn't show up in a stormtrooper shoot to the New Republic ships. Bro, you gotta be kidding me. Like, don't get off the ship.
Because they wanted to have this dumb reveal.
Yes, exactly.
All he had to do is steal the ship. Now, at the same time, when he steals this ship, I can write this off as them saying, we don't care about this one ship, because even if it is Ezra, it doesn't matter. We're back. Yeah. We're back. We got the Dathomirian witches. We're back. There's nothing. We're about to have overwhelming force.
Right.
So fine, sure, he got away. But the whole he had to wear the armor when he showed up, he didn't have to do that. They wanted the helmet off moment. And also, once again, a bad moment when Hera sees him and she's just like paused. Yep. No one runs to anyone and hugs them anymore. Like, is that we don't do that anymore? We're not excited to see people. We're just like,
and the fact that he's in the fact that it's written that he's in the stormtrooper gear is like also somewhat preventative from making that a run to them moment, right? Like, so for example, all he has to do, so let's just say he lands the ship, everyone's like, this is an Imperial ship, we got to get our guns out, they all have the guns out, same moment, right? He gets off, the thing opens, the smoke all comes down, and then you hear, Hera, can you guys lower your guns? And then he walks out, and then they run and hug. Like, that's the moment. That's what the moment should have been. Like, it's just
because he could use that same kind of humor when he was like, "You want prisoners, right? You do want prisoners, right?"
Exactly.
But man, that whole Thrawn got away. Ezra gets home. It's okay. All right. I know she's she's new Ahsoka now. You know what I'm saying? She's turned over a new leaf. But that doesn't mean that you can just say, "Oh well, you know what I mean? Hey, what's done is done." No, we seriously need to review what's gone down. We need a full debrief, and that debrief is that you screwed the galaxy. Now, of course, apparently Thrawn loses because we've seen the sequel trilogy, but the idea is that when he comes back, I'm pretty sure people are going to get hurt. And another thing that this season does not do, we do all of this building about Thrawn returning, and we see nothing.
Yeah, so true.
Nothing. He gets back. It would have been cool if, okay, say when Ezra gets back, then all of a sudden we start getting calls in on all different radio frequencies of attacks and this, that, and the third. Make something like that and then end on that. But no, we got to go see Shin Hati raise her sword for a whole bunch of raiders that don't matter. Right, also, the idea that this galaxy doesn't have some kind of civilization or states and governments or counties and cities, parishes or whatever, townships, something. Come on, man.
Yeah.
No. Oh boy. Okay. I'll get off that point for a second. To give Thrawn his props, one thing that I do like is when Morgan is like, "Hey, we got this. There's nothing they can do," and basically his whole attitude was like, "Nope, never underestimate a Jedi."
Yeah.
I love that part where he was like, no, many many Imperials have said exactly what you said.
Yeah.
Many of them. And they're all dead. He's like, no. He's like, it's time for us to go. We got to get out of here fast. He was like, we're not wasting any time. We're not taking no chances. And, like, even when he gloated at the end a little bit, he's like, hey, look, I won the day. You did well. Respect. But you know what? We won. And we're going home, and you're going to be stuck here. Well, until the whales come back and give us a ride back, or give y'all a ride back.
Right.
Because I assume the whales will come back sooner or later, but who knows how long that'll be. Like, maybe they make their migration once a quarter or something. I don't know. Or maybe once a year. Who knows? But this whole they're stuck over there, it didn't seem like it was a big deal to them. It didn't seem like, oh well, hey, Thrawn got back and we're not there to stop him. It didn't even seem like they were worried about that. They were just like, whatever, it's all good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where is the sense of urgency?
Yep.
I thought ever since the trailer, it was supposed to be a big deal that, hey, Thrawn is coming. We got to stop Thrawn. It's so much about Thrawn. It's so scary. We got to stop him. And then when Thrawn gets to the other side, you don't see them like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? What are they getting? We can't get a word to him. We can't get a message. Nothing.
Yeah.
Just like whatever.
Yeah. Exactly. And that same problem is true throughout the entire episode. So, like, for example, first of all, so let's talk about Morgan for a bit here.
All right.
Morgan, her battle. I'm gonna say some positive things first. Her battle with Ahsoka, I thought was pretty cool. Like,
oh yeah, the fights this episode were on point.
Yeah, the fights were. There's one fight that I have an issue with that comes right after, right after the fight with her. I think. I don't remember exactly the timeline now. I've seen the episode a couple times, so I forget this now. Anyway, the fight though with Ahsoka, phenomenal. Like that performer as a martial artist is fantastic. So that was positive. What I didn't like, again, this is a writing problem again, is we start the episode out by her getting to be basically like, I guess, is she a night sister now? Is that what she is? Like they make her into something, right? They turn her into some evil thing.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is.
It seems like they gave her, they said the gift of shadows. So it seems like, to kind of give an idea, I guess how I took it was, hey, you've been like, you're a Christian, but now you're being baptized, kind of thing. So like she's always followed the Night Sisters, but now she's being like baptized into the shadows, kind of thing.
Okay, I totally think that's the right way to take it. They give her the sword. Now, here's the thing. Why didn't you say in episode 1 Morgan's goal is to get the shadow? She wants the respect. She wants to be able to get this sword. She wants to be special. Up until that point, we just thought she was wanting to bring Thrawn back. Yeah. So the whole thing that's so weird about that is that, like, that moment, the music swells. This moment is so important, and we're like, this moment's important. This sword is important.
It's like, this is important. Is it?
Yeah. Is it really important? Because we saw her fight Ahsoka in Mandalorian season 2, and she didn't need a fancy sword or whatever extra powers she got. Not to mention the fact that why don't the witches bring her back to life? They're bringing back all the other people back to life. Like, I don't know, man. That whole thing. And then the other thing that really bothered me is that Thrawn literally just said, like, whatever you do, like, prevent the Jedi from getting to me. And then she squares up against Ahsoka and lets Sabine and Ezra walk right by. Like, it's like they're no big deal. It was like, what are you doing? Like, what? Isn't this supposed to be a fight between, like, aren't you supposed to prevent people on this team from reaching the Star Destroyer? Because you're not doing that.
I guess we can say that maybe that was her job, but she took it personal because Ahsoka beat her last time, so she wanted to take her on again. I don't know.
I guess. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe
'Cause
she was pissed.
they
She was
just
pissed
walked
at
by
Thrawn for
and,
keeping
you
her
know.
there. She's like, I'm just gonna take Ahsoka on. Let these people deal with Thrawn.
I mean, that fight was awesome. Like
that fight was dope. That fight was dope.
And it was fast. It did not look slow. It didn't
No.
look like they were doing 1 and 2 and 3. You know,
Yep.
it looked like they were kind of like giving it their all.
And
It
Rick
seemed
hit
like
us
they
with the
were
wide
really
shot,
going all
so we
out,
actually
which I
got to
love.
see him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Rick hit us with the wide shot where we got to actually
Yeah,
see their moves. It wasn't a bunch of close-ups.
He didn't go to the Chris Nolan school of editing.
right.
And y'all I know Chris Nolan fans, y'all love everything he do, but the bottom line is there were so many cuts in that animation. He could have made a cheesesteak with that. Like he had so many cuts. I was like, yo, when like I'm almost having a seizure looking at all these cuts. But anyway, that fight scene, both performers went all out, and I loved it. Like they gave it, you know, they went 100%, and that was on point.
Yep.
It's just beautiful. Like just to see it was awesome. Now, another thing we get in this, the blade of Towson. It's a whole other thing we just pulled out of our rectum.
Yeah, that's right.
Pulled it right out. Now, we had Mother Towson all through the Clone Wars animated series. Why did we never hear about this? Want to know why? Because we hadn't made it up yet. So now we make it up. Cool. That's great. I think the blade looks awesome. But I don't know. I would have liked to see Ahsoka get hit with it and then it do something to her.
Oh,
like, even if she got like nicked by it, and maybe it do something to her where it's like, you know, like oh my god, like it's like this poisons you, or it slows you down, or it has some kind of like, you know, lingering effect.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the sword looks cool, and the fact that they kind of like brought it from, I don't know, maybe a pocket dimension or something, that's cool. But they also brought it out of nowhere.
Well, this is the thing, because a bunch of these Star Wars lore fans will be like, well, you just didn't watch the Clone Wars, so that's why you didn't. It's like, hang on a second.
No, I watched it.
Yeah.
They didn't have the blade of Towson in it.
Yeah. Well, and even if like I'm reading an article right now that says that it appeared in one scene when Mother Towson fought with Mace Windu. Okay. Fine.
Oh my god.
Fine. So it appeared in one episode.
What? Oh my god. So now, so basically, because I've seen all the Clone Wars, so basically I had to be paying attention to, like, you know, 1 minute out of like the 20,000 minutes of the show.
Right. And
like,
that's bad. That's bad writing, because here's the thing. If we haven't seen those episodes, if we don't remember that, even if we have and we remember it at the top of our head, like, you remember that sword that Mother Towson had? That was amazing. Here's the problem. There is, what does it mean for Morgan to have that sword? And as far as we know, she's not expecting that sword. She's not trying to get that sword. That sword means nothing to her. We have no idea what Morgan's goal is, besides she kind of wanted to bring back Thrawn. She wanted to bring back Thrawn enough that she built a whole ship for him to bring him back, right? But then it's like, oh, by the way, the entire time. Now, I don't mind Thrawn's reaction to her, which is basically like, hey, I'm really glad you came all this way, but I actually need you to help me get out of here. So you're going to stay back and fight. I don't mind that, because he's a very strategic guy. I get that. But just how all of those pieces fell into place, it was like, you know, that Rick showed up for the job, and they went, oh yeah, by the way, we're gonna have this big moment where the Sword of Towson comes up, and he's like, what's that? And they're like, yeah, the Sword of Towson's gonna come up. Like, you gotta make it special. He's like, why do I need to make it special? And they're like, yeah, he did a good job.
Talked about this in any of the other 7 episodes.
Correct. And he did a good job. He actually did a really good job with it. He directed everybody really great about that. But man, it just felt like it came from nowhere. There was no foreshadowing.
I'm going to give Rick his props, because I'm watching the fight scene right now as we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Morgan is giving it like all, like she's swinging hard. The facial expressions, like they are going 100% at one another. And that's something that's awesome. But when you bring in this stuff, it's similar to what Stan Lee says. Every comic book is someone's first comic book.
Yep.
and like you didn't even we didn't know Morgan's like motivations at all. I mean, when she got over here, we're like, oh, okay, cool. You know, these are her people. Great. But we didn't know that now we know her motivations were to basically reestablish the Dathomirian people in our galaxy, meaning the one we know, the known galaxy, I guess.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yes.
If we knew that from the beginning, because then we could have had a situation like, oh, we know why she's there. We know why she's, you know, it just seemed like she was kind of like a Thrawn lackey sort of. And then it was like, well, no, she's a, you know, a night sister, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was difficult, man. That's what I mean by weird. It was almost like Dave Filoni was writing the next episode while the other episode was airing last week. You know what I mean? It's like, well, what should I do now? Like, what should I do now? Like, should I make something cool happen, or should I just like leave it? Obviously, he had some ideas for moments and stuff like that in there, but
like, because as far as Star Wars moments, this show shines.
Yes.
This show has tons of Star Warsian moments.
Absolutely.
But as far as being something engaging to actually enjoy as a TV show, just as a TV show, it's not cohesive.
No.
At all.
Filoni needed Favreau on this really bad.
Yes. And I don't want to hear nothing about 8 episodes at all. Now, it's a different medium, but storytelling is storytelling. Yeah. I just finished watching season 1 of Castlevania Nocturne 3 times, and that's only 8 episodes. Each episode is only like 26 minutes. And I've watched it 3 times already. Why? Because it's compelling. Because there's the backstory is, their motivations are clear. We know what's going on. We even have someone in Orlox that is similar to Baylan, but the difference is his motivations are shown, not told. So even though he's kind of an enigma, you're like, oh, okay, so he's a vampire, but okay, so he's clearly not with the other vampires, but he's not. Okay, so he's drinking the blood. Oh, okay, so he's anti-establishment. So he's not with so it's the whole time you're like getting this, but you're seeing him make choices. Not you get one scene where he's really cool, then he disappears for like 2 episodes. Then he comes back and you see him just standing on a stone statue. I don't want the 8 episode excuse anymore.
No,
because Castlevania killed it. Everyone had their motivations. They paid everyone off clearly and had an awesome ending. You know, at the very end, like when I say the very end, like the last 30 seconds of the finale. But we didn't get that here. See, in Castlevania, it looks like all is lost. Richter Belmont is on his own. And the one of the main vampires, Drolta, is coming after him. And we're like, yo, they're already beaten battered. It's over. Then all of a sudden, Drolta gets stabbed through the heart. Oh my God, who? How? Who? Oh snap. It's Alucard, Dracula's son, out of the blue. Boom. There you go. Heroic moment. Something that y'all could have did with Luke in episode 7, but don't get me started. So what I'm saying is I don't want the 8 episode excuse anymore. It's done. It's been done. Y'all just waste time. You waste time trying to do these cool Star Wars moments they're awesome. I appreciate them, but you're wasting time instead of actually telling the story.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about Shin and Baylan real quick. And I do mean real quick because it's not going to take long. Because we don't see them until the very end, which would I guess could be considered the epilogue of the episode, or the epilogue of the season. Maybe you did all of this building once again. Now remember, all these people that hated, Phantom Menace and this, that, and the third, you built up this cool guy, and look, you did nothing with him. Same thing happened here. Your boy, Lord and Savior, did the same thing here. 2 super cool people Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
And now, unfortunately, since Rey is passed, we're probably not going to see that story pay off. But do I even care if it pays off? Because you're still making it extremely vague as what he's. I mean, I guess the Abeloth people, they're probably right. I guess. But that doesn't mean it for sure. For sure. I mean, I guess, but we didn't wrap that up because you probably assume, oh, we'll get more episodes.
Yeah. Well, and I still don't even think that this is where Filoni's lore drives me nuts. Somebody was saying to me on Twitter, they were saying like, oh, but Filoni's bringing in all the lore, like it's going to be Mortis and this and that. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, that's not making Star Wars better. Like, the George Lucas lore was fine. Like, you didn't need to necessarily build off of that and like build all these other things.
The Mortis god and everything kind of convoluted things to a certain degree.
Correct.
But at the same time, I guess you could. There's nothing wrong with having personified, like, you know, you have death and stuff like that. There's not. I mean, like, you know, you have like death and like Marvel and stuff. So I mean, I guess there's nothing wrong with a personification. But then you start asking questions, like even when he brought in the character Bendu, you start asking questions like, okay, so are there any more creatures like this? Like, is Bendu one of 10 or something like that, or you know? But sorry, continue.
No, you're going down the exact same path I'm going down. It's like there's a point at which, okay, so like normally when people bring lore into stories and you'll see like a character that's being named like one of the Greek gods or like a character from the Bible, they'll name them something, and then that character stands for something that makes their character more interesting. Usually those things are vague and interesting because they relate to a philosophy. But you don't like get out like a philosophy book and be like, here's like 100 pages of what this character is going to go through based exactly on what's in the book. It's just an inspiration for that character. And what I feel like Filoni does is he goes, I have all this inspiration for a character, and I'm not cool with just telling you that they're a cool character and they exist in this world. I had to explain every little detail to you about how this character works in relationship to the Force. And you're like, dude, I don't even want to know all that, because now what my brain starts to do, instead of just accepting that as like a metaphor for the Force, instead of accepting that the Mortis gods are sort of metaphors for what the Force is about, he's making them core to everything that the Force exists around, right? Like, because what we have to assume is that Baylan's character as the mountain, as the statue, is pointing towards the source of the Force that Baylan is going to go to. Like the father is pointing to that. And dude, that is so getting literal into like, oh no, the father really existed and the son really existed and the daughter really existed, and then this is the actual place where they created the Force. It's like, dude, that is so literal. We don't need that amount of literal things in our lore. It's better if the lore is just
they're going
left.
to back up and say that this person didn't create the Force, but this person kind of, I guess, found the Force, or was the first person to maybe ever tap into it, maybe, but still, we're starting to get into the weeds in a way where it's like, I don't know if we should.
Yes, 100% agree. Yeah, it's just too much. I don't think... it frustrates me because George Lucas left it pretty open. Now a bunch of people asked him a bunch of questions about it, right? And George was inspired by Eastern mysticism. Clearly, that's been well documented. Even George has talked about that, and that in and of itself was like, you know, we don't know, we just accept, and therefore there's yin and yang, and we accept, and like acceptance is a huge part of that, right? So as the audience, you go, okay, cool, I'll just accept it.
Yeah, just let it be a situation where the Force is, and that's
Exactly. It doesn't need to be. You don't need to get into the idiosyncrasies of like how this Force was created, how this. Then you get into what happens for me personally, and people are already posting about this. Like somebody posted. I just saw a meme on Twitter where someone posted. the scene in I think it's Revenge of the Sith. It could be Attack of the Clones. I think it might be Attack of the Clones, where Anakin is meeting with Senator Palpatine, and he tells him like, "Is there a way to bring people back from the dead?" And he's like, "Well, there is. It's just unnatural." And then it shows that scene, and below that it shows the witches bringing all the stormtroopers back to life. It's like, well, unless you know a witch, then it's actually kind of easy. Now, obviously, they were bringing them back in sort of a zombie way. It's totally different,
which is super unnatural.
It is super unnatural, and I think the point that I'm trying to make is that like once you keep adding stuff, you add this, and then you add this, and then you add this, you take it to the next level. Pretty soon, things start to get a little bit more like, I don't know how that works. Like, for example, if you're like, one of the things that I have questions about with this episode is that Ahsoka says to Sabine, "Have you been keeping up with your training?" Now, if we go back 4 episodes, which I thought was about 4 days ago in the timeline of the show, Sabine could not move the cup on the desk. She couldn't move she couldn't pull the cup towards her. And now Sabine is like throwing Ezra across chasms. I'm like, I don't know, man. What happened in this time? And she goes, "I've been training." And I'm like, "You have?" Because we haven't seen that on screen. So what have you been doing? It seems
like you've just been running from trouble to trouble.
Exactly.
It doesn't seem like you've had time to really train. And then for Ahsoka, they even asked, it's been like, I don't know, maybe a week, if that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe it's been a week.
I guess.
What training has she had to do? She's been a prisoner, then she's been on the run, then she found Ezra, pretended like wasn't nothing wrong, and now she's here.
Exactly. So again, what is that now? Was there any point of the episode where I was like, "Wow, this is so stupid that she's force pushing Ezra onto the thing"? No, but when we talk about lore and we talk about what it means to be a Jedi, and by the way, the official Star Wars account apparently came out and said that Sabine is a Jedi now, and it's like, well, that's weird because Ahsoka's not a Jedi. So is Ahsoka's not what's happening here? It's so confusing. Is she just want to be like Ezra then? Is that what we're saying she's going to try and be? My whole point is that when you rush through all of these things and you try to have too many characters with too many storylines, it becomes pretty convoluted pretty fast. And then we're left with all of these moments, like you said, that are 10 out of 10 moments. And then you fill in the gaps between those moments and you go, I'm not sure that works from a storytelling perspective, though. Like the gaps aren't being filled the way that they probably should be filled. And we know Filoni's better at that even though I think there's some really boring episodes of Clone Wars and some really boring episodes of Rebels, we know that when given a lot of time, Filoni does tend to land the plane well. And you and I were talking about that. Like, Filoni's going to land the plane. It's 8 episodes. He's going to get there. But now we know Filoni needs a couple of seasons. Maybe he needs 3 or 4 seasons to be able to land.
Or maybe Filoni thinks he has more time than he really does.
Ooh, that's a good point.
Because there's no guarantee you're going to get a season 2, especially with this whole strike and everything. Because I believe the writers came to a deal or an agreement, but I don't believe the actors have.
No, they're still meeting. Today was another one of their meetings.
Yeah, so there's no guarantee that there's going to be another season.
Right.
And shoot, for that matter, I mean, who knows if we're even going to see the movie, which, I mean, Lucasfilm coming through on their movie announcements isn't always a good thing.
No, it's not. No,
but
it is not.
I don't want people to think that I don't like Star Wars. I love Star Wars.
I do too. I love Star Wars.
But I'm going to
go in this season.
I'm going to go in and say the Force Ghost at the end was not cool. I didn't really care for it at all. It's weird because the episode with her and Anakin I loved, but showing his Force Ghost at the end of this episode, I was just like, it was almost like an eye roll. I don't know why. It was something about it I just didn't care. And maybe by the end of the episode I was already disappointed, so maybe that was just another piece. But when I saw it, I was like, wow, really? What is he smiling for? What is he really smiling for?
So here's the lore again where it gets weird, right? So we got to go back. But you and I had this long discussion where I was like, man, I'm going to be very uncomfortable if this is actually Anakin's Force ghost that's visiting her in the world between worlds. And this is why. This is exactly why. Because now, let's just take Ahsoka and break down what her character arc was. To me, that moment, the reason why that moment was supposed to land, and I did like the way it was directed too, where you pull back and you see his shoulder, and then it pulls back around and you do a dolly shot in or a zoom into him. That was cool. But here's the problem. From a storytelling perspective, what that moment was supposed to showcase was that Ahsoka had fully realized the last lesson that she needed to learn. Here's the problem with that, though. Did she learn that she should be at peace and not at war? Did she learn that she's fighting for peace and not trying to go into battle? I mean, she does seem more at peace personally, but the galaxy, Thrawn just got back. Is that a reason that they should be celebrating, or is it?
They shouldn't be happy right now. They should. Yeah. They should be literally doing everything they can, calculation wise, to get back. I mean, shoot, for all that sake. And this is of course you can't have this because then you can't be stranded. But one of the main things I would have did is been like, okay, hey, Huyang, you know how you scan stuff? You scan the ship and everything? On our journey, just keep a scan of the nautical miles or whatever the space, I guess mile markers or whatever, track all that. So then all we have to do is just hit a U-turn. Because I feel like if he is a robot that has the skills to be able to scan stuff, then he definitely has some sort of GPS. So in that, in saying that, and of course people be like, you're asking too many questions. Well, he's doing this stuff, meaning Dave Filoni. If he's putting out all these answers, then he's going to make me ask more questions. So my question is, one, if you have GPS either in yourself, Huyang, or on the ship, can you not track /map where you've gone? So then you can just turn around and come back. Even if you can't light speed it the whole way, you can still go back that way. Because that, in my estimation, say if I get inside a a car or something like that, and I guess I would have to get on in like a trailer, and I get in that trailer, and I turn on Google Maps and I just watch where we're going. Then I can be like, okay, cool, reverse direction, right, and then just go back.
Exactly.
If Google can do that, I know Huyang can.
Exactly.
And I know it's a dumb thing to bring up, but you bring it up when you start doing all these things where you're explaining stuff, and it's like, well, okay, if we're explaining all this stuff, hold on, can't Huyang tell where he is in any specific point in space? Like, he knows where he is. Like, if his programming knows, like, I'm on Hoth, I'm on Tatooine, I'm on Coruscant, and I'm on this, this coordinates. So can't you just track your coordinates as you travel through space and then just turn around and go back? Why don't you just be like, okay, well, cool, we just go north, just go like a long way north, just keep going that way. Can't because they don't even seem like they're trying to go back. They're just like, let's go and have a bonfire and kick it.
I know, that was funny. They were totally like that. They were totally like, yeah, it's fine. In fact,
you told us that it was dangerous for Thrawn to get back, that we were fighting to keep him from getting back. Now that he's back, we see no urgency to try to get back there to stop him or to warn people.
Yeah, or even to warn them. And on top of that too, again, Baylan and Shin did nothing in this episode. Virtually nothing. They're on screen nothing. For 6 seconds.
They just stood in place.
Yeah, and the bummer about that is that when we began this series, if I'm not mistaken, the opening shot of this series is them rolling up to a New Republic ship and then murdering a bunch of people on that ship, right?
Yeah.
That sets the tone for us that Baylan and Shin are going to be the primary either protagonist or antagonist. Protagonist meaning the people who have the goal that need to get things done. Antagonist mean the people who are going to try to prevent them from getting that to happen. So that means that says to me that Ahsoka is the antagonist. I'm going to try and prevent Baylan and Shin from achieving their desired results. Except they don't even matter to this episode at all. Even after Ahsoka and Sabine are headed back to, they see the Force Ghost and stuff. They're headed back to the fire circle. Why aren't they like, should we check in on Baylan? Because he seems to be up to something that's even worse than bringing Thrawn back. It just does not make any sense to me. It's just so weird. They left so many threads open, which I get it. There's going to be another show, whether it's called, well, yeah, maybe. And maybe it's, and here's what I was saying last week too. Like, I don't think they're going to have an Ahsoka season 2. I think the plan is to have like a Ezra season 1. And then all these things are going to play out in some other kind of show.
Stop nickel and diming these shows.
Yeah.
Like, stop it. We don't need a million different shows.
Exactly.
We don't need Ahsoka season 1, Mandalorian season 2, Boba Fett season 1. We don't we don't need all those. Just have one main show.
Yeah.
Because you have Ahsoka, and the show won't about Ahsoka. It was Rebels season 5.
And this made more sense when it was the Clone Wars, where you could jump around from character to character because it was literally about the Clone Wars, right? Yeah. But like you're saying, they have an Ahsoka show, a Boba Fett show. There's going to be a Skeleton Crew show. We've got a Mandalorian show. All of those shows, with the exception of Andor, have to come to the Filoni movie conclusion. So like they're all part of whatever this war is going to be called. They're all part of that, but they're all these separate pieces. And the problem is
the war that's like never ever mentioned in the sequel trilogy.
That's true.
Just remember that. It's never ever mentioned.
Yeah,
maybe because it only lasts a day. Maybe we're gonna find out in this movie that it literally lasts like one day. But then my next argument is that the greatest military mind that the Empire has ever known only lasted one day.
Yeah.
Nobody ever mentioned, like, from the First Order, like, nobody ever mentioned, like, hey, what about that guy named Thrawn or something? Or maybe they were just too busy doing their own First Order thing. Who knows?
Well, and my problem with this is that they've told us that this show is called The Mandalorian and it's about The Mandalorian. And this has bothered me, and I've never really brought this up, but then a bunch of people were like, no, it's just called The Mandalorian and it's not about Din Djarin, The Mandalorian. It could be about Bo-Katan, The Mandalorian. It could be about some other Mandalorian that we bring in. And then we get another show called Ahsoka, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of about Ahsoka, but it's also really about Sabine and Ezra and everybody else. It's almost like they should have just called this live action Rebels, and then it would have made more sense to everybody, right? So one of my problems is that when you name the show, and actually Solar Gray brought this up in one of our previous episodes, where he's like, the titular character is barely even showing up. Now that we've seen her arc in this one series, it's like, was it really Ahsoka's show? Because this show would have been better had we had more time focusing in on Ahsoka. Some of the best moments of the show were from episode 4, where Ahsoka is a primary character trying to prevent something from happening.
Yep.
Episode 5, where Ahsoka is meeting Anakin and then has to actually figure out how to overcome the challenge of getting to the other galaxy, and figures out a way to do so. The show is best when it's about Ahsoka, because the show is called Ahsoka. We shouldn't have got into all these other things, man. It just made it too convoluted.
Yeah, and I'll even, like, because I remember people talking about the Mandalorian. Because the way I understood it, and this might just be me just being weird, but the way I understood it is, when the show starts, the Mandalorian is just Din Djarin. Because Din Djarin is a very solo person. He's by himself. He's on his own. He's a foundling, and he's just doing his own thing. And then as the show progresses, as he evolves, the Mandalorian comes to mean more than just himself, even more than just his sect. It's about his people. And then I'm like, okay, cool, I get it. I feel, at least that's how I was kind of like seeing, like, okay, so it's becoming more. It's more about than just him. It's about, you know, bringing Mandalore back, which is cool. I can get with that. But then I do also see the side of, hey, we thought we were going to get just Din Djarin walking around beating people up, and now it's not really about that anymore. Now Bo-Katan's here. You got this thing with Moff Gideon, and he's building. It's like, you know, I don't know if I want this anymore. So I get that side too. It's just that me, I guess in my case, I was kind of excited about where we were going as far as like returning the Mandalorian people. But then, you know, hey, I guess, you know, when you come to Ahsoka, that doesn't really translate.
Right.
Because see, you can say the Mandalorian, and it's just like the Mandalorian, meaning like when like in the Bible, when they say man, they're not talking about men only and not women. When they say man, they mean the race of man, human beings. Right. So the Mandalorian, like human beings, dummy. But it's like, no, because people be like, it says man. It's like, yes, but what they mean, it's like, you know, you don't translate literal words, you translate meaning. But that's a whole other thing. Anyway, so in the Mandalorian, you can do that because it can be Mandalorian one person, Mandalorian people, or the Mandalorian homeworld. It can be those things. It can be those things at one time if it wants to be, because the nature of that word. Right. But Ahsoka is different. Ahsoka is the name of a person. Yeah. It's
exactly.
different.
And on top of that, I would just, the argument I would make is that when you call something the Mandalorian, and then the only Mandalorian we're following for the first season is focused on Din Djarin, it builds. So in other words, all I'm saying is you send signals to people with titles, you send signals to people with the way that your story flows, with who the character is focused on. And I think Star Wars is in this place where it is, I don't know if they're too rushed or what it is, but they're sending lots of signals, that they're sending some signals, and then in other regards, they're sending no signal at all. So we didn't get any signal about the Talzin sword, right? We didn't get a signal about that. But we got this signal saying Ahsoka is the main character. Okay, well, I'm assuming that your whole show is going to be about Ahsoka, and it happens to be the best when it's about Ahsoka. So it's just the signals, their signals that they're sending and that they're not sending are just off. They're not making sense. It feels like they just need more time to sit with this and to deal with it before they do anything. That's kind of my thought process.
But you know what? Anyone who's watching, get ready, because I'm about to give some praise. It's praise time. Okay. The whole bit with Huyang and Ezra is something that I love. The building of the lightsaber, you know, him saying, I have a system. He's like, you have a process, not a system. Or no, he said, you have a method. You don't have a system. Right. And then him saying that, you know, who taught you to build a lightsaber? I've been doing lightsabers longer than you've been alive. Who taught? And then when he said Katie, he was like, oh, of course. You know, so like those things are like Star Wars gold, even though it didn't really drive the plot. It gave us great insight. See, that's it. Dave Filoni gives us great insight into Star Wars. He does not move the story forward. Like, because that scene, I love that. Even his response to hearing Kanan saying, he was like, oh, well, of course. Okay, makes sense now. All right, well, then this is what you need. Yeah. And then, of course, when Ezra sees it, he's like, oh, yeah, just like, he was like, you know, so seeing that, I guess, relation between them two and that connection through his master, and then I guess Huyang's, you know, student to a certain degree, that was a great moment. And then even the statement of what is it? The relationship between a master and apprentice is usually challenging as it is meaningful. Those are awesome parts of Star Wars. They're awesome parts. They're great. I love those statements. I love those interactions. Those even the hints of the interpersonal relationships with I don't know, Ahsoka and Sabine, or Ezra and now Kanan who's gone, or even Huyang and Ahsoka. Those things are awesome, and I really enjoy them.
Yeah.
But we have to be able to place them in a way to better move the story.
Correct. I think the way you just said it was perfect. It is essentially he is primarily a librarian, right? And I've said this about the Lucasfilm story group too. They are librarians, and especially true the story group. And Dave Filoni is a librarian who is then telling stories. Now he's an awesome world builder.
Mm-hmm.
He knows the lore. He's developed his own lore on top of George's lore. And so he gets at those moments that are like, yeah, we'll have a character building a lightsaber on screen. Like, we'll do this, we'll do that. All that stuff is cool. But sometimes he falters in that, which I think is why he needs to be paired with Favreau, because Favreau is a really good storyteller and knows the beats that he needs to hit.
Yeah, he knows how to pace things better.
Correct. So, yeah, I mean, I think the best way of talking about this is it was disappointing. It was not a bad episode. It was just a disappointing episode, given what our expectations were, given what we were led to believe based on earlier episodes.
Yeah, from the two trailers that we got coming into this, and once again, since we are older, we're used to that, like that joke where that guy was talking about the meme that says, like, if there was a TV show called Skate Man in the 90s, from episode 1, he'd be skating. He'd be using rollerblades. He'd have inline skates. He had quad skates. He had a skateboard. He'd skate everything. But now he'll be depressed for 10 episodes. In the last 2 episodes, he'll be talking about, possibly skating to break his depression. And at the very end of the 12th episode, he'll get a pair of skates. Because it's like, the trailer led us to believe that we're going to jump into this, and with 8 episodes, maybe Thrawn is going to be back in episode 3 or 4. And then we're going to get 4 episodes of Thrawn really laying on the pressure, whether in the core worlds or the outer mid or the outer rim. And it'll be something where the Republic is finding out that they have no idea what they're doing, and that they're kind of look at, oh, well, we can't fight and have war and stuff because we don't want to be like the Empire. And then they have to find out that, so running the government means you also have to defend it too. Like, and see the Empire or see the New Republic get their butts handed to them for, say, like 3 episodes or so, where it's like, oh, this is why they were worried, because he's come back, and he's been back for, say, a week, and he already has a stronghold in the outer rim, or already has a stronghold in the mid rim, and he's already putting feelers out to Coruscant, and it's not looking good, because all of these people that we thought weren't a big deal, and this is just a isolated incident. No, there are tons of, basically Nazi sympathizers, or in this case, there's tons of Empire loyalists, and, he's creating a system where people are basically rising up at their jobs and killing their counterparts because, long live the Empire.
Yep.
And then that would be like, oh my God, like, this is why they wanted to keep him away. This is the big deal. But we didn't see that.
Nope.
Not at all.
We did not see that. Exactly.
I mean, we got zombie troops.
Yeah.
Which was cool. I mean, I think it's awesome. And I think it could be awesome and very scary if turned against the New Republic. and not kind of siloed to a small section on the other galaxy that didn't really super matter.
Yeah.
But even with that, the way they were moving was creepy. Like, they got some good zombie movers. It was creepy. Like, hold on. Like, I just hit him with the lightsaber again, and this dude is not dead. So that was cool. But
that was cool. And we even saw a partial face, because they even know that one dark trooper. You see his
dark
face
troopers or whatever.
Yeah, that's cool.
That was nasty in a good way.
Yeah.
But we just didn't get Thrawn doing anything. Like,
I was kind of surprised with the zombies too. I have to say, I was kind of surprised that they didn't figure out. There's no zombie lore in the Star Wars universe, because why weren't they going for cutting off the heads or stabbing them through the brains early on? Like, he was like, "What are you guys doing?" Like, there's a way to kill these.
No zombie lore. There was the only time we saw zombies were when they did the attack on Dathomir, but that's years and years ago now, and none of these people were there, so they didn't know. So yeah, they're super ill-equipped to handle this. And like they're just like coming at him, and it's it's crazy. And the trip is when he said, "Are you sure you know what you're gonna do?" These people, she was like, they volunteered, they're ready. So it's like, I guess he already told them, like, "Hey, look, you might die, and when you die, we're gonna reanimate your body."
Right.
And of course, like he said, for the Empire. So these people are all, they're truly, they're all for the Empire,
right.
Mind, body, and soul.
Yeah.
So that is one thing that I thought was awesome, that I thought came through in this episode, because I don't want to be just mean the whole time. Zombie troops was cool.
Yeah.
Like, they were super cool. So I give them their props. And then the way Thrawn was, because he knew, he was like, prepare for a ground assault. Don't underestimate. Like, he did his thing, but I just don't like where we ended up. I guess one thing I do like where we ended up, the fact that we were seemingly establishing our stronghold on Dathomir. And that might have been part of the deal with the ladies, like, hey, this is where we're gonna go, because I mean, Dathomir is probably, I guess, an empty planet, because Grievous was sent and killed all of them. Yeah, it might not be anyone left. Now, of course, they have all those coffins, so I guess they're going to repopulate the Night Sisters in those bodies, I guess, maybe. I don't know. And we might never know, due to the fact that we might not get a second season, or maybe this will be in the movie. But I do like the return to Dathomir. I think that's cool.
Yeah,
I think we can get a lot out of that. We can bring back also the Dathomirian men, so we can get another, like another kind of, I guess, look-alike of, of course, the one and the only Maul. So maybe something cool like that. So that might be a good place for them to kind of like set up shop, because Dathomir has been, I mean, it was remote back when they were in the, I guess not the old Republic, but the just the regular Republic. I don't know, but they were a remote planet then. So since it's been empty for who knows how long, it should be super off the radar, and a perfect place for him to kind of concentrate his power.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That is cool. But also in that Dathomir thing, when he tells Morgan to stay, and he says for the Empire, and when he leaves he says for Dathomir, we didn't know she cared about Dathomir that much.
Exactly.
Like, we didn't know she cared about Dathomir that much. It would have been awesome if we did.
Yes.
it would have been awesome if we knew she cared that much about Dathomir in Mandalorian season 2.
Yeah. And if we knew that, all of those things that I was complaining about earlier would have not been a problem. Like, you would have been able to foreshadow all of that.
Yeah, because we would have been able to, like even a throwaway line from her in Mandalorian season 2, like maybe if she said something like, maybe like, you always think you're so much better than us or something like that. Or, and she would have been like who? And then she could show some green flame and she can say like, you'll see it. We'll be like, oh, hold up, the green flame. That's yeah. And then people will be like, at least something to know that she's a Night Sister or I guess a follower of Night Sisterhood or something like that, and then finally gets inducted. Maybe this was her kind of like pilgrimage. And this was important. We don't know.
Right.
We just have no idea. But guys, I don't hate this show.
I don't either. I don't hate this show.
I hate the way these last 2 episodes played out as a penultimate and finale of a season.
Yes.
I'll throw it over to you. Final thoughts, and where can they find you?
Yeah, final thoughts. I guess the best way of giving my final thoughts is to contextualize for people, because we've done a lot of complaining, even though we've said there's some cool things that did happen in this episode. So let me contextualize for people like what I think is great television versus what I think is mediocre, versus what I think is bad. I would give Andor probably a 9.75 or a 10 out of 10. Like, it is fantastic. It doesn't feel very Star Wars, so I get people who don't enjoy it as much. But as far as quality goes, best directed, best written, best performed Star Wars probably of all time. So that's a 10 out of 10 for me. Next on the list is Mandalorian season 1 and season 2, both of which I think are above 9. I love both those seasons. Mandalorian season 3 for me is probably more like at a 7. Still good. I still enjoyed it just a little bit. Again, a little bit more storytelling problems. I might give it a 7.5, maybe even to give it an 8 if I watched it again. But it wasn't as good as the first 2 seasons.
Yeah.
I would give Kenobi probably a 5.5. Although I think that it's just like, so that's to me is just like an okay episode. Anything above 8 is exceptional. Anything from like 6 to 8 is good to decent to good, and then anything below 6 is kind of like, well, it's fine, or then it gets into bad territory. So Kenobi's fine. Book of Boba Fett, I would say, is probably like a 4.5. There are some good moments. There are some good things that happen. Overall, not a great season of television, in my opinion. So where do I put this? Where do I contextualize this and put it in place? I think it's probably, for me, superior to Mandalorian season 3, but not better than season 1 or season 2. And nowhere compared to Andor. So even though I'm complaining about this as a season, I still would give it probably a good 7 out of 10 because of some of the moments that we got.
Yeah.
But what's hard is when something is so disappointing. It's like, it's really hard to end on this in this particular way. And I felt like that with Kenobi too, because my whole point with Kenobi was it had to prove its existence. At the end of the day, I don't think it proved its existence. And I was like, oh, okay. So it was kind of just a show for us to be excited about Kenobi. Fine. This proved its existence a little better. It just didn't execute well all the way through. And so that's why I'm giving it what I'm giving it. It's not bad. It's the only reason I'm complaining so much on this particular show is because it was disappointing to me based on what we got on 4, 5, and 6. So yeah, you can find me. It's
not bad.
Yeah, you hit me with what you think before I give people where they can find me.
Well, now I was just agreeing, saying that it's not bad. It's not horrible. But go ahead, tell people.
Okay. Yeah, you can find me over at Orange Grove 55. We do the StoryGeek show over there. Every once in a while, I'll be commenting on Disney stuff as well. They're a Disney channel. I do stuff that's not Disney on the Orange Grove 55 channel, but primarily they talk about Disney stuff over there. You can find me over there doing the StreetGeek show. We've been reviewing Ahsoka as well. In fact, I shout out our show all the time because I have such a good time doing this with you that it's been really fun this whole season. And then you can also find me at How Stories Work with Jay Sherer. That's its own YouTube channel. And I have some new short film stuff coming out that you should definitely go take a look at. I have a table read that we did for No Vacancy, which is like a superhero thriller with some horror elements to it. You can check that out over at How Stories Work with Jay Sherer, the YouTube channel.
Oh, cool. That's what's up. For me, I'm gonna probably go around the same way. I don't hate this show. This show definitely had a rocky start. I do think that it hit a really hot streak with 4, 5, and 6. But 7 and 8 were disappointing. They weren't trash. They were just disappointing because the story didn't really move anywhere. But maybe that's budget constraints, whatever. Who knows? But out of 10, I might sit this show at like a high 6 to 7, because there's a lot of stuff that I think is done to explain Star Wars that can be cool, but then there's a lot of stuff where it's like the whole thing with like, oh, the Force, you just gotta work really hard and you can get it too. It's like I don't think that's how the Force works. And if that's the case, then everybody can just get it. But or everybody can just be a Jedi, just like, hey, I want to be a Jedi, and then you just go, work hard. But I don't hate the show. Like there's cool things for the Night Sisters. There's cool things for Huyang, Ahsoka, but I also think the show isn't titled correctly. It's not Ahsoka. This is just Rebel Season 5, which is another issue that I have with this show in general, is that it doesn't really deliver on the promise of the title of the show. So I'd say maybe like a high 6. I think it's around a high 6, because there's stuff that I dig. Yeah, I think I might have it around a high 6, almost 7, like a 6.8, 6.7, something like that. So I don't hate the show. Yeah. I think the show is cool. It's like one of those things where it's like, oh, it's all right. It's cool.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I'll be watching this show back over again the way I did with The Mandalorian.
Right.
Unless it's a situation where I watch like episodes maybe 4, 5, and 6 maybe. And maybe like watch the fight scene in the finale. Yeah. That might be it. But guys, I'm sorry, because I'm pretty sure if you love this show, we didn't give you the love fest that you may have wanted. So apologies. But with that said, NERDSoul, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, podcast, all that jazz. Until the next time that you are resurrected by 3 witches, until you receive the blade of Talzin, or until you have to beat up a stormtrooper and steal a spaceship, this is from us to you saying, peace.